G'day, Paul from Democast Media, helping you get the picture and make an impact with visual communication. On this channel, I show you how to use screen capture and video tools to help supercharge your communication, your marketing, training, and other things related to visual communication. So if you want to get better results like that, if that sounds like you, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. So a few months ago, I received an invitation from Upwork to do an explainer video. And this was for a gentleman in the human services sector. He wanted to pitch a brand new online calculator, which was targeted at support coordinators, suppliers, people within the NDIS space. Now, as much as I love getting invitations to do work, I was apprehensive about this initially because I knew next to nothing about the human services sector. It was completely foreign to me. And so while I was a bit apprehensive about it, I thought I'll jump in and have a call with this gentleman. And there were times where, there were a few ups and downs, a bit of stress to meet some milestones. But the end result was much better than I thought it was going to be. That the client was happy, and we got something that I thought was quite a nice little product there. So if you've ever wondered how to produce and explain a video for your own software, or if you're a video creator and you're kind of early in the journey, I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show you the 6 things that I learned from this process. Both the things that I thought worked well in my favor, and 3 things that I would do differently and could have done better. And so what I'm going to do is show you the video firstly on the client's website, and then I'm going to unpack this.
When you decided to work in the human services sector, you did it for the love of helping people. It's what you were born to do. What you didn't sign up for were hours of stress and frustration filling out NDIS paperwork. You know, the number crunching, estimating hours and rates, not to mention quality checking and rework, which affects your clients or your business in a big way. That's why you need Support Calculator. It was developed by experienced NDIS providers to take the hassle out of writing service agreements so you can get on with the real work. With its robust pricing and calendar features, plus the latest NDIS rules baked into the algorithm, you can easily calculate your client's schedule of supports in less than a minute. Let's say you want to work out the cost of taking your client to a weekly cooking class. Select the state and funding categories, and Support Calculator generates the correct hourly rate. Next, enter the service agreement duration, frequency and days of contact, and you'll receive a precise breakdown of the total number of sessions and cost. After working out your schedule of supports for cooking class, if you then wanted to find out how much funding you could allocate for public transport training under capacity building, all you have to do is hit the refresh buttons and switch the funding categories to work out the best case scenario for your client's needs and preferences. Sometimes when all you have is a time frame and budget, but need to figure out everything else, well, this tool has you covered. Let's say you want to calculate how many hours of coordination of supports you can provide to a client. Just enter the support budget over here, and you'll be able to advise your clients on how you plan to use their funds with more certainty than ever before. Support Calculator works well on a desktop, mobile or tablet, giving you greater flexibility and control over where and how you work. Make better, more informed decisions for your clients wherever duty calls. To see how you can simplify your life and serve your clients better, sign up for a free trial today.
Okay, so that's the finished product. And this is a journey for me as well. There are things there that I would change slightly, but that was the end result after not having no understanding of the human services sector, but still being able to produce something that will sell his software. So what were the 6 things that I learned from that process that you as a video editor, creator, or person that actually owns a software, what are some 6 things that you can be aware of in this process of making an explainer video? I'm going to go through that with you right now. So number 1 lesson, when I first engaged in this job with the business owner, the number 1 thing I wanted to do was to have that video call through Zoom. Many of you who have followed so far know that I'm a big proponent of video conferencing. And the reason I wanted to do this, I wanted to have the video on, and so he could see me, I could see him. I wanted to build the know, like, trust factor. It's much easier to develop that rapport if they know that if they're going to like me, they're going to know that up front by seeing me. So I wanted to do that intentionally. I wanted to have that as a vehicle so I could understand what he was trying to achieve. So I had a list of questions that I wanted to ask him. Now, at one point in the conversation, I needed to sort of explain the difference between, say, a tutorial and an explainer video. So what I did was to use Zoom as a means to do some whiteboarding. So what I'm going to show you now is basically what I did. So I said, we need to be clear about what type of video we're looking to create. And so it's kind of like on a spectrum. So at one end, you have a tutorial, and that's, I guess, what you would consider a lesson. You're trying to teach something. It's very one way. So at one end of the spectrum, that's one type of screencast video that you can create. On the other end is what we're kind of discussing, and it's an explainer video. And an explainer video is more like an advertisement for your product or business, kind of like a trailer. It's a lot like a promotional video, doing the selling for you on autopilot, essentially, especially if it's on your website, people come in and check you out. And so if you consider this kind of like on a spectrum here, we need to decide, well, what is it that we're trying to achieve here? Are we trying to teach a concept, or are we inviting people to actually buy a product? And so as we were discussing this, we said, well, while we were sort of thinking it could be something in the middle here, the end product is more towards the explainer video end. And so I was able to use this medium to get that message across, and he understood that. And that first conversation and using Zoom, I think, really helped clinch me getting that job. And so I think Zoom worked in my favor. So that was the first thing I got. So using Zoom or whatever video conferencing tool to build the know, like, and trust factor, understand needs, and be able to visually communicate what needs to be done. Now, while that worked well, we had a second call. And so this is where one of these nights, I was already at another meeting and I had to rush back. I was feeling quite stressed about what needed to be done at my other meeting. And so when I came back, I was kind of rushing. I was rushing back, and I was sort of switching on Zoom and getting the website, because I wanted him to show me the 3 different use cases for his tool. And so we went through and had a lengthy conversation. I thought, we're recording this, and so a lot of the explanations, I can just listen to this later. When we finished the conversation and he went off and had to do something and was going to come back later, I watched the footage, and I was using Camtasia for this, and my stomach sank. What I realized is that while the Camtasia was recording my voice, and we could record him and what was happening on his screen, it wasn't recording his voice. And that, for me, I was like, I'm meant to be the Camtasia expert here. And so what I had failed to do, I won't be able to show you on here, but there is an option within the recorder where you can record the system audio. I had failed to do that. And so I had to admit to him when he got back, look, I did not capture any of your audio. We're going to have to do this again. He was thankfully very, very generous and gracious. He said, well, look, these things happen. How did that happen? And I explained what it was. He said, look, it's no big deal. Let's just have another call. So we did that. But the lesson was that could have been avoided had I had a checklist. And so whenever things if you're under pressure and or you have to do something and you have to get it right and do it right the first time, the checklist helps you out. And so what I'm going to do next time is have a checklist that I can rely on, even if I'm running behind or if I'm feeling stressed. So that was lesson number 2. Now, the third thing, again, going back to the positive, how I got to this result. Because I didn't have any prior knowledge of the sector, I studied and learned as much as I could about the human services sector. I was obsessive about it. So I spent a lot of time, and I'm going to show you some of the things I went through here. I went through and got a glossary, NDIS glossary, just to understand different terms and the people involved in this. I was going and looking at articles explaining about case management and how the system all works, about support coordination. All that was so foreign to me. I went to the NDIS website and started downloading different reports that they had there, fact sheets. I went and looked at the client's website, which was under development. I was just poring over the copy that they had here and the different stakeholders involved in this. All of this helped me better understand what the pain points were, and all of that helped contribute to creating the script. That is the most important thing that you need to be able to pull a video like this together. The script informs the story. It helps inform what visuals will be used at what point and where. It is the skeleton that keeps it all together, but that had to be informed by research. The research helped inform the script, and the script required very little editing or revision from the business owner because I had done the work up front, and I listened to the conversation that I had recorded on Camtasia of us discussing and his explanations over and over again until I really got it. I was comfortable to be able to deliver that script and then keep going with that process. That worked really well in my favor. That was critical, in fact. However, I could have sped up the process. This is the lesson number 4 now. Lesson number 4 is when I was having those initial discussions with the client, I should have actually kept using the whiteboarding tool or PowerPoint and start putting together like a bit of a very basic process map, kind of like what you see here. This visualizing of the stakeholders and how they interact with one another, the different regulatory bodies and suppliers and people that have to create service agreements, and then the final end user. I could have understood that so much faster had I actually put it in something like this. I could have just followed my own advice and used visual communication to speed up this whole process. And so that's why I say, get the picture and make an impact. Your brain understands visuals much better than just words alone. So that is the next thing I'm going to make sure I always do. Get a basic customer journey or stakeholder map to understand your client's business and ultimately be able to deliver a better video product. Now, back to the positive. Because I had done all this work up front, I was able to make some production decisions. I needed to tell a story of how the different people involved in trying to in putting together a service agreement. I needed to be able to put this in a way that was going to be engaging and kind of reflective of other explainer videos I'd seen in the space. And so I went to Flat Icon and I used this volunteer pictograms. And this will look familiar to you. So there are 30 different things here. I used these to help me out in describing some of those pain points or what the different stakeholders wanted. So that was a good decision on my part. The research helped inform that. The music I used was reflective of other explainer videos I'd seen, and it needed to be something upbeat. So that worked really well. So all that preparation went into choosing, well, what kind of story do I want to tell? What elements do I need to use? That's what I did in the end. Now, the last thing, it's the last lesson now, is that I put together this video, and initially, actually, it didn't have this first frame, these first few frames at the end where it says introducing supports calculator. It didn't have that. And in fact, the background was blue, much like the blue that's here, and the font was something completely different. Also, if I scrub along, there's a part where you see like a check come out there. Okay, so that was also a completely different color and a different tick. And what the client had to the feedback was that those elements, that's the different colors I had used there, and the different font family, and the fact that it was a blue, that I needed to change that because it wasn't congruent with where the video was sitting here. So the blue against blue, not enough contrast. The font was not Open Sans, which is what the site uses. And because I didn't have those first few frames with these images here, it looked blank when they first uploaded the video. And I don't think they could have actually used a thumbnail for whatever reason here. Those things taught me that understanding where the video is going to be placed against the color palette and the branding of the branding that's being used, that's really important to make sure that it's congruent. If you're just you're just making certain decisions, but you leave that aside, it's just not going to look like it's meant to fit there. It's not meant to sit well. And so I made those changes, and it made a big difference. 6 really important lessons that I got from making that explainer video, where I started out really nervous and sort of going through a few ups and downs, but we finally got there, and there were things that I learned. So just to quickly recap, and I'll give you the question of the day. So the 3 things that worked really well in my favor. So 1, having a Zoom call with the clients and using video to build know, like, and trust, asking them questions about their objectives, and using those visual tools to show them what needs to be done. That worked well. The second thing was diving deeply into your client's industry and business, because that helps inform your script, which is the skeleton that puts it all together, the script and the storyboard, rather. But it needs to be informed by deep research. The third thing that worked well, because I'd done the research, I was able to use really simple but effective icons and music to tell a story. That it wasn't just a tool, but it helps you get back to the real work. All those icons and the music helped tell that story. The 3 things that I could have done better, which I need to do better, is use a checklist to make sure I get the important conversations recorded and do things right when you're kind of under pressure. I needed to, so the checklist, I needed to get a customer journey map happening there, basic one, to understand the whole process better and make sure that the final elements that you choose are actually reflective of the website color palette and design and the branding there, or else it just doesn't look like it really meshes well. So they're the 6 things I got. So my question to you is, what's the number 1 thing that you've learned in doing client work for others? Leave your comments in the section below. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and make sure to subscribe to get more content like this, so you can experience more clarity in what you do, because clarity is power, and that's what I want for you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.